From patent clerk to genius, Albert Einstein's true story. Learn English with real stories. Let me ask you something. Can imagination be more important than knowledge? Can a person who failed math class change how we see the universe? Can curiosity about simple questions lead to discoveries that revolutionize everything? In the next 10 minutes, you'll discover a story you will never forget. You will learn simple English. You will feel inspired. And you will see how one man changed the world forever. This is not just a story about science. This is a story about not giving up, about thinking differently, about a man who changed the way we see time, space, and even reality. This story will inspire you. This story will teach you new English words. And this story will empower your life. His name was Albert Einstein. Einstein means one stone in German, but Albert would prove that even one stone can create infinite ripples across the universe. He was born in Germany in 1879. He grew up with curiosity, questions, and a mind that worked differently from everyone else's. He became a struggling student searching for his path, then a patent clerk dreaming of the cosmos, later a revolutionary scientist rewriting physics, and finally a global icon who showed humanity new ways to understand reality itself. Chapter 1. Origins. The year was 1879. Europe was entering a new age of science and technology. In the small German city of Ulm, a baby was born who would fundamentally change how humans understand space, time, and reality. Albert Einstein was born on March 14th to Hermann and Pauline Einstein. His father owned a small electrical engineering company. His mother was a cultured woman who loved music and literature. The Einstein household buzzed with intellectual energy. The smell of coffee mixed with the sound of piano melodies drifting from the parlor. Books lined the walls of their modest home. Evening conversations explored ideas about science, philosophy, and human nature. Baby Albert was unusually quiet, taking longer than normal children to speak. His worried parents consulted doctors. Was something wrong with their son's development? But when Albert finally began talking, his questions revealed an extraordinary mind. Why is the sky blue? What makes magnets work? How do we know what we know? His curiosity seemed endless and profound. At age 5, Albert experienced what he later called his first scientific wonder. His father showed him a pocket compass. No matter how Albert turned the device, the needle always pointed north. This simple instrument captivated him completely. What invisible force guided that needle? Why couldn't he see it or touch it? The idea that hidden forces shaped the visible world planted a seed that would grow into revolutionary theories. In English, we say someone is ahead of their time when their ideas are too advanced for most people to understand. Even as a child, Albert was clearly ahead of his time, asking questions that puzzled adults. His uncle Jacob, an engineer, introduced Albert to mathematics and algebra. Algebra is a merry science, Jacob explained. When we can't catch the animal we're hunting, we call it X and continue until we capture it. Albert loved this mathematical hunting. Numbers and equations became tools for exploring the mysteries that fascinated him. While other children played with toys, Albert played with ideas. But school was a different story. The German education system emphasized strict discipline, memorization, and unquestioning obedience to authority. Students had to recite lessons exactly as taught, with no room for creative thinking. Albert struggled in this rigid environment. His teachers found him rebellious and slow. He asked too many questions. He challenged accepted answers. He preferred understanding concepts to memorizing facts. "You will never amount to anything," one teacher told him bluntly. Little did that teacher know that this difficult student would one day revolutionize human understanding of the universe itself. But first, Albert would have to survive the challenges of being different in a world that demanded conformity. Chapter 2. First Struggles. When Albert was 15, his family's business failed. The Einsteins moved to Italy, leaving Albert behind in Munich to finish his education. For the first time, the curious boy was completely alone. The separation was devastating. Albert had always been close to his family, especially his supportive mother. Now he faced the harsh German school system without their encouragement and love. He felt like a fish out of water. In English, this expression means someone who feels uncomfortable and out of place in their environment. Albert definitely felt like a fish out of water in the authoritarian German schools. The military atmosphere of his gymnasium became unbearable. Teachers demanded absolute obedience. Students were expected to accept information without question. Independent thinking was discouraged, even punished. Albert made a bold decision that would define his character. He dropped out of school and followed his family to Italy. The move shocked his parents, but Albert was determined to find his own path. In Italy, surrounded by Renaissance art and free from German rigidity, Albert flourished. He studied mathematics and physics independently, reading advanced texts that most university students struggled to understand. But practical problems soon emerged. Without formal education credentials, how could he pursue his scientific dreams? His father pressured him to abandon physics and join the family electrical business. Science is not a career, Hermann Einstein argued. You need a practical profession that pays the bills. Albert faced a choice that millions of young people face. Follow your passion or choose financial security. The decision would determine his entire future. Let me ask you something. When your dreams conflict with others' expectations, which voice do you follow? Would you risk disappointing your family to pursue what you truly believe in? Albert chose his dreams. He applied to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich, one of Europe's most prestigious technical schools. But disaster struck. He failed the entrance examination. The rejection was humiliating. Here was a young man who had taught himself advanced mathematics, yet he couldn't pass a basic entrance exam. Self-doubt crept in. Maybe his teacher was right. Maybe he really wouldn't amount to anything. But Albert refused to give up. He spent a year at a Swiss preparatory school, strengthening his weak subjects while continuing to excel in mathematics and physics. In 1896, he finally gained admission to the Polytechnic. The boy who had been told he would never succeed was about to begin the journey that would make him the most famous scientist in history. Albert had no idea that his greatest challenge was just about to begin. Chapter 3. The Turning Point. At the Swiss Polytechnic, Albert discovered both his greatest strength and his biggest weakness. His brilliant insights into physics amazed professors, but his rebellious attitude toward authority created serious problems. He skipped lectures he found boring, preferring to study independently in his small rented room. Candlelight flickered across physics textbooks as Albert worked late into the night, exploring ideas that fascinated him. The room was sparse but alive with intellectual energy. Papers covered with mathematical equations scattered across his desk. Empty coffee cups stood like sentinels beside towers of books. The air smelled of candle wax and intense concentration. His professors were not impressed by his independence. They wanted students who attended every lecture, took careful notes, and never questioned established theories. Albert did none of these things. "You have one fault," his physics professor told him. "You never listen to anybody." Albert graduated in 1900, but barely. His rebellious reputation made it almost impossible to find work as a physicist. No university wanted to hire someone known for challenging authority. For 2 desperate years, Albert struggled to survive. He worked as a temporary mathematics teacher. He tutored wealthy students who often knew less than he did, but could afford education he couldn't. The contrast was bitter. While former classmates found good positions, Albert remained unemployed and increasingly desperate. His girlfriend, Mileva Maric, was pregnant, adding pressure and responsibility to his already difficult situation. In English, we say someone hit rock bottom when they reach their lowest point. Albert was definitely hitting rock bottom. His dreams of becoming a physicist seemed impossible. Then, in 1902, A friend helped him secure a job at the Swiss patent office in Bern. The position was humble, examining other people's inventions and determining if they deserved patents. But this seemingly disappointing job became Albert's salvation. Patent examination required understanding how things worked, thinking about problems from multiple angles, and imagining new possibilities. More importantly, the work left Albert's mind free to pursue physics during quiet moments. While evaluating patents for new clocks and mechanical devices, he began thinking deeply about time itself. What if time wasn't constant everywhere? What if it moved differently depending on how fast you traveled? What if the speed of light was always the same, regardless of motion? These questions seemed absurd to most physicists. Time was time. Speed was speed. Space was space. Newton had established these truths centuries earlier. But Albert's mind worked differently. He could imagine riding alongside a beam of light. He could visualize what might happen if trains moved at impossible speeds. His thought experiments led him toward ideas that would shatter conventional physics. Working in his small patent office, unknown to the scientific world, Albert was about to unleash theories that would change everything humanity thought it knew about reality. If you were working a day job while pursuing impossible dreams, would you have the patience to continue? Albert's persistence was about to pay off in ways no one could imagine. Chapter 4: Success and Impact. The year 1905 became known as Albert's Miracle Year. While still working at the patent office, he published 4 scientific papers that revolutionized physics and changed human understanding of the universe forever. Picture this: a 26-year-old patent clerk, unknown to the scientific community, quietly rewriting the fundamental laws of nature during his lunch breaks and evenings. His first paper explained the photoelectric effect, how light behaves like particles, not just waves. This discovery would later win him the Nobel Prize and help launch the quantum revolution. His second paper proved that atoms really exist by explaining Brownian motion, the random movement of tiny particles suspended in liquid. At the time, many scientists still doubted whether atoms were real. But his third paper changed everything. Einstein introduced his special theory of relativity, which revealed that space and time are not separate, fixed things, but are woven together into what he called space-time. The most shocking discovery was that time moves differently depending on how fast you travel. A person traveling at high speed would age more slowly than someone standing still. This seemed impossible, yet mathematics proved it was true. His fourth paper contained the most famous equation in history, ESMC2. This simple formula revealed that matter and energy are interchangeable. A tiny amount of matter contains enormous amounts of energy. Think about this transformation. In 1 year, an unknown patent clerk became the most revolutionary physicist since Newton. The scientific community was stunned. In English, we say someone turned the world upside down when they completely change how people think about something important. Einstein literally turned the scientific world upside down with his discoveries. Universities finally took notice. In 1909, Albert left the patent office to become a professor, first in Zurich, then Prague, and finally Berlin. The struggling student had become one of Europe's most celebrated scientists. But Albert wasn't finished. In 1915, he completed his masterpiece, the general theory of relativity. This theory revealed that gravity isn't a force pulling objects together, but the curvature of space-time itself. Imagine space-time as a stretched rubber sheet. Massive objects like stars create dips in the sheet. Other objects roll toward these dips, creating what we experience as gravitational attraction. This theory made specific predictions that could be tested. In 1919, during a solar eclipse, astronomers confirmed that light bends when passing near the sun, exactly as Einstein predicted. Overnight, Albert became the most famous scientist in the world. Newspapers proclaimed, "Revolution in science, new theory of universe, Newton's ideas overthrown." Crowds gathered wherever he spoke. Children asked for his autograph. world leaders sought his opinions on everything from politics to philosophy. The boy who was once told he would never amount to anything had become humanity's symbol of genius and intellectual achievement. But fame brought new challenges that would test Albert's character in ways scientific problems never could. Chapter 5: Conflict and Pain. As Albert's fame grew, so did the pressures and responsibilities that came with being the world's most recognizable scientist. Success brought unexpected pain and difficult choices. The rise of Nazi Germany in the 1930s shattered Albert's peaceful scientific world. As a Jewish intellectual who spoke out against war and nationalism, he became a target of Nazi hatred. German newspapers published articles attacking Jewish physics. Students burned his books. The Nazis put a bounty on his head. The man who had revolutionized German science was now considered an enemy of the state. In English, we use the phrase a blessing and a curse to describe something that brings both good and bad consequences. Fame was definitely a blessing and a curse for Albert. In 1933, while traveling in the United States, Albert learned it was too dangerous to return to Germany. He accepted a position at Princeton University, becoming a refugee from the country of his birth. The transition was heartbreaking. Albert lost his homeland, his German colleagues, and the familiar environment where he had made his greatest discoveries. Starting over at age 54 was emotionally devastating. Personal tragedies deepened his pain. His first marriage to Mileva had ended in bitter divorce. His relationship with his sons was strained and distant. His second wife, Elsa, died of illness, leaving him increasingly isolated. The development of atomic weapons tormented Albert's conscience. His famous equation, EMC2, had revealed the energy hidden in matter, making nuclear weapons theoretically possible. When he learned that Nazi Germany might be developing atomic bombs, Albert wrote to President Roosevelt, urging America to begin its own nuclear program. This letter helped launch the Manhattan Project. But when atomic bombs destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Albert was horrified. "I wish I had been a watchmaker," he said, with deep regret. The man of peace had inadvertently contributed to humanity's most destructive weapons. His final years were spent searching for a theory of everything, a single equation that would explain all the forces of nature. Despite decades of effort, this goal remained elusive. Albert also devoted considerable energy to civil rights, calling racism America's worst disease. He supported the NAACP and spoke out against segregation, using his fame to advocate for justice and equality. On April 18, 1955, Albert Einstein died peacefully in Princeton. His last words were spoken in German, but the nurse who attended him didn't understand the language. Those final thoughts remain forever unknown. Even in death, Albert remained true to his character. He had requested no funeral, no grave marker, no monument. He wanted to be remembered for his ideas, not worshipped as a person. Legacy and reflection. Today, March 14th is celebrated worldwide as Pi Day, but it's also Albert Einstein's birthday, a fitting coincidence for history's most famous mathematician-physicist. Albert's journey from struggling student to scientific revolutionist teaches us that intelligence comes in many forms. The boy who seemed slow in school possessed a type of genius that transformed human knowledge. His story proves that curiosity is more valuable than conformity. While other students memorized answers, Albert questioned the questions themselves. This willingness to think differently made all the difference. Albert showed us that imagination truly is more important than knowledge. His greatest discoveries came not from complicated experiments, but from simple thought experiments about riding light beams and falling in elevators. He demonstrated that persistence trumps perfection. Albert failed his first university entrance exam, struggled to find work, and faced constant rejection. Yet he never stopped pursuing his scientific dreams. His commitment to social justice reminds us that great minds have moral responsibilities. Albert used his fame to fight racism, advocate for peace, and defend human rights, proving that scientific genius should serve humanity's highest values. Most importantly, Albert taught us that the universe is far stranger and more beautiful than we ever imagined. Space bends, time stretches, matter becomes energy, and reality itself depends on your point of view. His theories launched the modern age of technology. GPS satellites, nuclear power, lasers, computer chips. Countless innovations depend on principles Albert discovered over a century ago. But perhaps his greatest legacy is inspiring generations to think boldly, question everything, and never accept that something is impossible simply because it hasn't been done before. Now it's your turn. What questions fascinate you most about the world around you? How can you nurture your curiosity despite pressures to conform? What would you attempt if you knew failure was just part of learning? Keep learning from those who dared to think differently. Keep believing that your unique perspective might hold the key to breakthrough discoveries. Keep growing in your courage to challenge what everyone knows to be true. And remember, you're not just learning English through these stories. You're discovering that the greatest scientific discoveries begin with simple human curiosity and the courage to imagine new possibilities. If you liked this story, please like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to English Life Stories, your channel for real stories, powerful lessons, and better English every day. We have many more inspiring real stories to help you become a confident English speaker and a more curious thinker. See you next time.